Hey, welcome back to the Valencia Property Podcast, or if you've never heard this before, welcome to the Valencia Property Podcast. And in what has been a monumental month in terms of sales, news and more in Spain, we'll get into it in the pod. In this month's pod, we're talking about the news about Spain's golden visa finishing, at least for people looking to get it through buying property, the alternatives in terms of visas for coming to live in Spain for non-EU clients, and we start a new section this month all about neighbourhoods and towns in and around Valencia. One neighbourhood and one town each month until I get bored or run out of inspiration or run out of places even. In our Valencia story this month, we're looking at the strange story of an abandoned spa in Chulilla and why hope is rising like a phoenix from the flames. We'll start this month though by just mentioning what's happening on Friday, May the 10th at 4 p.m. Spanish time. We'll be having our first WhatsApp Q&A for people in our WhatsApp groups. Now, you need to be in the group to participate, but next Friday about 4 p.m. Spanish time we'll do it. This is for everyone in the WhatsApp groups who get first news about price drops, blogs, podcast releases and new listings on the site. How it will work. At the start of the hour, we'll be sending out a message to everyone in the group to start and you can get your question answered directly. I've put aside an hour to do this so there'll be no interruptions. As only we will see the questions and we'll be copying and pasting them with the answer into the group. If a longer answer is required, then you might get a voice note on it as my typing speed isn't 700 words per minute. But I do talk quite fast. Remember, there are no stupid questions, unless you are in certain Facebook groups where you will see there are plenty of stupid questions. Anyway, how can you participate? Have your question ready and send it to us right at the start of the hour. However, if you can't follow during the hour, send it beforehand on Friday and we'll make a note of it to answer during the hour. If you're not a member of our WhatsApp group, then send me a message on my WhatsApp number, which is 0034 657 994311. That's me, Graham. 0034 657 994311. Tell me your full name and I'll add you to the group beforehand. No questions are off limits and we'll do our best to answer everything in full. I'm looking forward to it. In terms of the blogs that we've published this month, there have been plenty, and as usual, you can find the links in the show notes. The first post of the month was all about our 25-year anniversary coming up in September. We then did the rare thing of 2 posts being published on the same day about why we don't deal with rustic properties, reasons, and the post we are continually updating about the end of the golden visa. It was a big couple of days because we had published last month's podcast the day before too. On the 15th, we published a post reminding everyone that Spain is different and talked about the history behind that slogan. You must know Spain is different, yeah? On the 22nd, we talked about us being the #1 realtor in Valencia for American clients, which is a huge achievement. We finished the month with an article that pissed off certain people about why you might not want to buy that first floor flat. I think those complaining were concentrating on that and not the reasons why you might want to, because really, we should have called it How to Find Your Perfect First Floor Flat in Valencia, and then people would understand more. The reason we published it was because of so many first floor flats that we get offered that are awful, with all or most of the problems we mentioned. Let's move on to the Golden Visa news now. So, the Golden Visa is finishing. You can read our article about it, but suffice to say that it's a political decision by the current government to satisfy its coalition partners and ensure their support going into some difficult times in terms of votes needed in Parliament. Let me reiterate here, it will have no effect on the property market as a whole, in Valencia or in Spain. The decision to end the Golden Visa means there'll be fewer potential buyers for properties over 500,000, and that's not exactly starter homes for the majority of Spanish people, except those financed by the Bank of Mum and Dad, of course. The measure is just PR. It would have a much greater effect if the government put a whole lot of new regulations on Airbnb and regulations on multiple holdings of properties, because that's what hoovers up the lower end of the market, taking away opportunities for first-time buyers, people buying stuff at the cheap end in order to rent out on Airbnb. If you are thinking of getting the Golden Visa to come and live in Spain, the question now is which visas will be feasible. So today, let's look at the alternatives. The best known is probably the NLV, but there's an issue here. The NLV, by the way, is the non-lucrative visa, but there's an issue: work. As the name suggests, if you are on the non-lucrative visa, you cannot work, unlike the Golden Visa. You're supposed to be able to support yourself with funds either held in a bank account or through income from pensions, investments, etc. on a monthly basis. Now, here's the truth that nobody tells you. Nobody is checking if you are working remotely on a non-lucrative visa if you applied by using the bank account method. I can't advise you to do this, as you could be found out, But lots of people on the non-lucrative visa are still working remotely, running companies in other countries and picking up dividends. The issue, therefore, is that you will be taxed in Spain as you need to be here for over 6 months each year to maintain the visa. Dividend income is only taxed at 20%. Equally, if you want the non-lucrative visa to be a path to permanent residency and citizenship, then you can only be out of the country for a maximum of 10 months in the first 5 years of your visa, and never for more than 6 months in a year. For those of you working like this, a better option is the digital nomad visa. Now, we've written about the digital nomad visa before, but just to reiterate here, it's for remote workers, company directors, and others who can do their work from anywhere. They move to Spain and become Spanish taxpayers on the income generated from their work. Freelancers need to become self-employed here and do their annual tax return, whereas employees need to show their tax return from their home country and pay any difference. Do some research into this because you may get a higher tax bill here. You may not. You may be able to get the Beckham law. Some people say that's possible. Very, very difficult, but you might be able to do it. The digital nomad visa is an excellent option. It's not as good as the golden visa, as there are hoops to jump through, but without the need to pay out $500,000 for a property, it's a bit easier. You can still get a golden visa. If you have €1 or €2 million, you can invest it into Spanish banks, companies or bonds. And not only do you get the golden visa, but also a return on your investment in terms of dividends or interest payments. For those of you looking at a golden visa or nothing and having a net worth of quite a few million, then this can be an option too. Remember that you need to have the money invested when you apply or when you reapply. If the money is invested in a bank account or Spanish companies, well, who's to say it needs to stay there in the intervening time? With bonds, the money is tied up for a fixed time period. Another option that's often overlooked is a student visa. Now, you might say, I'm too old for a student visa. Nobody's too old to be a student. We are constant students throughout our lives. Anyway, it's useful as it also allows you to work here for a maximum of 21 hours per week as long as it doesn't affect your studies. You need to sign up for a recognised course for the student visa, and it's valid for up to 2 years initially, but can be renewed in case of failure or moving on to a higher level of studies. This can also be converted into a working visa further down the line. There are recognised courses from just over €1,000 per year which can be done, but it's worth doing something that moves you forward in life, of course. You'll need to prove you have the funds to be able to support yourself, just like with the non-lucrative visa and the digital nomad visa. But maybe it's an option for people wanting to avoid the vicissitudes of a non-lucrative visa, especially if you want to work part-time and you've got a particular date that you want to arrive in Spain. Because remember, the non-lucrative visa, you don't know exactly when you will be approved, and then when you are approved, you've got 60 days to get here. So, it's a bit in the air when you start the process, how long it might take. A lot of the embassies are slower than others, and some are quite good, and you get there quick. Other visas are available, and you can read about them all in our article about it, which you can find in the show notes. See which is applicable for you, and get in touch. In news from Spain this month, there was one story, really. And that was the threat of the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez to resign because of ongoing concocted corruption allegations against his wife. He was basically sick of having to deal with this crap. After 5 days of reflection, as he called it, he decided to carry on, meaning he should expect more of this rubbish. Politics is a dirty game, of course, but it's an especially dirty game when politicised judges supported by dark money from Francoist think tanks are making up rubbish and giving it credence as it comes from a judge. Another rather overlooked story this month was an edict from Barcelona Town Hall that all medium-term rentals would be considered long-term rentals. The number of rentals on the major property portals went down by 25% in 2 days as a result, which is a staggering drop. However, it was pointed out that there is no way that this is likely to be a long-term thing and will probably disappear after 30 days, because there isn't the support in the Catalan Parliament to make this into law, so it sticks. And the maximum time period for an edict like this is 30 days. Why is this bad? Because it means people would have the right to stay in a rental initially only for 3 months for a lot longer. And owners who rent out their properties in this way because they themselves may be working away for that period, for example, wouldn't be able to get back into their property. If this happened, we would be forced to close stepping stone rentals, for example. I can't see it happening, but watch this space. You never know what happens in the mad world of Spanish politics. In our new section this month, we're looking into areas and towns in and around Valencia that you might be interested in for living. We're starting with our 2 most popular places in and out of Valencia, Ensanche in the city and La Liana outside the city. Within the city, the most popular place for buying property from our clients over the last few years has been Ensanche. Not the Old Town, not the beach, but Ensanche. Now, traditionally, Ensanche comprised the areas known as Ensanche and also Ruzafa, but we're sticking to the former as Ruzafa will have its own entry further down the line. Ensanche lies next to the riverbed and near to the City of Arts and Sciences in the Old Town. The most popular roads here are Calle Salamanca, Calle Burriana, Calle Ciscar, Conde Altea and Joaquin Costa. They're full of restaurants, cafes, shops, supermarkets and places to buy most anything you want. One of our clients thinks there are more than 100 restaurants in the area within a 5-minute walk of their front door, with cuisine from all over the world. We all have our favourites, of course, but in Ensanche you can find Las Lunas Soul Kitchen, which is great, Kathmandu Nepalese food, which is the best Indian Nepalese food I've ever had in my life, a surfeit of sushi and tapas places, one even called Sushi and Tapas, and that's a fusion I didn't know the world needed. It's like cheese and chocolate, good on their own, but as a combo, I'm not sure. There are also plenty of Italian, Spanish and chain places of better or worse quality and higher and lower prices. It's the vibe of the area that sells. Equally, Ensanche enjoys some of the best looking buildings in Valencia with traditional classical facades, and the apartments here are large as it was originally an area conceived for the rich Valencian bourgeoisie and their extended families and servants. Many of the places retain their 2 entrances, one for the family and the other for us plebs. Property in Ensanche is in demand and therefore don't expect to get your offer accepted if it is anything over 5% lower than the asking price. Usually asking price is what you get to pay here. However, you can get a good price per square metre as flats are generally large, but they do require modernisation in many cases. Now, Ensanche has the highest price in Valencia per square metre currently at €3,600 per square metre as an average. If you can find a place at 2,000, 2,500 that needs modernisation, you're getting a good deal. And if you get to modernise something that's got original features all over the place, which you can maintain while getting yourself new plumbing, electrics, lighting to make the most of the spaces with the high ceilings, the excellent covings and the large open spaces, this is great. You can often see property in Ensanche on the Valencia Property homepage because we know our clients and we know what they like. Outside the city, one similar attraction for buyers is the town of Llewellyn. Llewellyn is popular because of many factors, but the lovely centre of the town with its amazing park, the quality and quantity of cafes and restaurants, the facilities and the shops, the excellent sports centre, the family-friendly nature of the town, and the fact that it's connected to the city by metro and bus, as well as being just 15 minutes away in the car from the city centre of Valencia and the airport, are huge positives. The fact that it looks nice, the housing is largely villas within walking distance to the town's facilities, and the proximity to Valencia have meant that the popularity of Llewellyn has grown massively in the last few years. And where there is popularity, then there is demand for property pushing up prices. And the good news is that the properties tend to be large and spacious on good-sized plots, because this is where old Valencian money used to build their summer houses, when it used to take an hour to get there on the road rather than the motorway from the city. It's now a motorway. Not for Llewellyn are the cookie-cutter modern developments of 200 identikit villas. That's San Antonio. We sell a lot of properties in Llewellyn, and also Riberoja, more of which in the next podcast, because of all of these factors. The fact that it also has a Carrefour shopping centre on your doorstep helps people decide that this is the place for them too. Take a look at our properties in Llewellyn and around on our homepage. Our Valencia story this month is all about an abandoned spa in Chulilla, but listen up because there is good news at the end. In theory, you can ask, what could go wrong? A quite wonderful area of Valencia with medicinal waters at a constant temperature of 23 degrees Celsius, a fantastic location on the banks of the River Turia as it meanders its way down towards Valencia from the nearby mountains. The beautiful town of Chulilla, hewn into the hillside above the Charco Azul just 4 kilometres away, a mecca for climbers and walkers with its vertical cliff faces on the Ruta de los Calderones. In short, close to perfection. Well, it turns out quite a lot can go wrong, especially when there's a financial crisis in 2008. The fountains of Chulilla and the medicinal properties of the waters that sprung from them were already known in the 17th century. Valencians would make the trek up to Chulilla to take the waters if they had respiratory problems, arthritis, backaches and more, and they'd benefit from being in a relaxing and spectacular location. The benefits of the water are disputed. For many centuries, Chulilla continued its way as a destination for wealthy Valencians giving rise to many large villas being built in the late 1800s and into the 20th century, making the area a destination for the Valencia bourgeoisie. There was always going to be an opportunity for someone to make something of this, and in 1983 the Chulilla Balneario opened. Balneario is Spanish for spa. For the first 8 years of its life, the spa became better known and more popular and grew accordingly. The first problem came in 1991 when the founder of the spa, a guy called Jose Maria Lasso, died. Now, Jose Maria Lasso was the manager of Juan Manuel Serrat and one of the people responsible for Julio Iglesias breaking the US market, so it's his fault. The spa was later run by Termas de Fuencaliente S.A., which is a company that took it over, and in the good times the spa grew until it had 100 rooms and up to 200 guests. It was generally full or close to being full as it added into its offers traditionally associated with the spa lots of cultural events such as chamber music, art exhibitions, themed weekends and more to make it more of a year-round destination. The financial crisis was key in the unravelling of it all. Suddenly people were looking out for any excess expenditure and visits to the spa for the weekend were suddenly not a necessity. The spa enjoyed a great supply of customers through the Inserso project, whereby pensioners in Spain are given a holiday every year. Many of them ended up enjoying the spa facilities at Chulilla. The government started cutting back on that project again after the financial crisis, reducing the numbers turning up at the spa, and funnily enough, increasing the numbers turning up in Benidorm, which was the cheapest place to send pensioners in the winter. Things went from bad to worse over the years following the financial crisis until the final cut in 2012, when a huge forest fire affected the area and 100 clients were evacuated from the spa, along with the whole population of Chulilla and Gestalgar, as 5,500 hectares of land were destroyed. The spa itself wasn't touched, but the area around it was torched, making it much less attractive to tourists. By the way, it is now totally recovered. The spa shut down in the autumn of 2013 with the idea of reopening in the spring 2014 after a renovation of the installations. But it never happened. And now it looks like something that Jack Nicholson would spend a winter trying to write a book at. The building is owned by the town council now, and they don't have the funds to maintain it, so year by year it decays. There have been a couple of floods, and obviously thieves have been in and raided it for anything valuable. It's a shame. If anyone's looking for a rural tourism 100-room hotel they could get from the council at favourable rates for a decade or so, while it's fixed up and restored to its former glory, then this might be the answer. Let's just say it requires a little TLC. But the start of the work has happened. Meanwhile, Chulilla itself goes from strength to strength as a tourist destination at least. Climbers from all over the world and walkers from all over the Valencia region converge on the town at weekends and during the holiday periods to enjoy everything it has to offer. At under an hour away from Valencia, it's well worth a visit. However, in the last decade, the town's permanent population has fallen from 850 to around 640 and grown older. A 25% reduction in just 10 years isn't great. Maybe it requires an influx of people buying extremely well-priced property in a beautiful area, and we can source great properties in Chulilla for you, of course. The good news, though, is that work has started on the spa now, although it won't involve all of the installations. It currently won't be becoming a hotel again. It's due to become a day centre for older people in the area, and during weekends and the summer months, it will be used as a swimming pool and cafe for tourists and anyone in the area wanting to cool down in a cool place. Recovering the old spa functions might be some way off yet, though, as the place is absolutely massive and requires a hell of a lot of work to take it back to its former glory. And I'm not sure the economic case is there for this work at the moment. We'll see. So anyway, that's the spa, which is starting to recover, and that's the end for this Valencia Property podcast for this month. We'll be back in the heat of June with more, and we look forward to seeing more of you during the summer and into the autumn. Remember to book your house search early as we are already filling up and we really don't work August. Until next time, this is Graham saying goodbye. If you've got any questions, you know where to get in touch with us. Information at valenciaproperty.com, that's valencia-property.com. And you can also get us on WhatsApp on 0034 657 994311. Remember to go into the show notes and you can see all of the links that we've mentioned here today. And then when you come over, you'll be more informed. We look forward to seeing you here in Valencia very, very soon.